Hi, entrepreneur. Welcome to your Entrepreneur Resources Show. I'm very excited. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Venice, your host, and here at your Entrepreneur Resources, we discover the no-fluff action steps to help you avoid all the overwhelm and all the BS out there, connecting you with the right mentors, resources, and tools, helping you every step of the way on your entrepreneurial journey. We go live here twice a week, interviewing different entrepreneurs and experts on all areas of business, so make sure to join our Facebook group and look out for the events inside your Entrepreneur Resources page. You can find all the links in the description box. Today, I have an amazing guest with me. It is Kabrina Budwel. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here.
Yay! So excited for you to be here. Kabrina is the founder of Kabrina Budwel Consulting and a consulting firm that focuses on helping their clients create, capture, and nurture subscribers into paying clients. Specializes in lead magnets, quizzes, messenger bots, and funnels in order to create automation opportunities in the businesses that she works with. In this Kabrina, we're going to be talking about how to create content that can be repurposed easily, 3 aspects of great content, and how to use them in your content and messaging. Super excited for this topic. You know, I love talking about repurpose. Please tell us a little bit more about your business and your journey.
Yeah, of course. So I actually am the sole person in our family that works. My husband is the stay-at-home dad, which has been a really fun transition for us over the last 18 months. And so what we really focus on in the business is how to actually automate things so that people can focus on what they want to do and what they started their business for in the first place, because we don't get into this to work and be chained to our computer 24 hours a day. And so what we were seeing was business owners, sitting on the beach with their computer, trying not to get sand in it while they're trying to work and still enjoy their time off with their kids. And we wanted to change all of that, especially from coming with our own 5 children. It's important to us to have that time away. So we really focus on that as part of our strategy and part of the systems that we create for other business owners.
Cool. Like I'm sure that you have so many tips for us there, but how do you juggle, life and work and, make sure to stop sitting in front of the computer and stop working? How do you get yourself to step out and truly relax and be with your family?
Yeah, well, and for us, it came from figuring out that strategy in the very beginning and making the mistakes. So with my first 3, I took a tiny bit of time off. And then with my 4th, I didn't get any time off because my husband had lost his job. COVID was just about to start. And so I literally had a baby and then 6 hours later was on a call with a client to keep things running. And so that was my realization of this needs to change. And the way that we've been doing marketing and running a business and creating this structure around us to create freedom was actually chaining us to everything that we were creating. So I was like, okay, how do I create great content, but then also push it out there to where people are seeing it and understanding who I am and what I do and why I do what I do. And most people don't understand that because we're trying to just beat the algorithm with a funny meme and something that will go viral by chance.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up. I think it's such a good transition into the topic that we're going to discuss today, all about content. Before we dive right into discussing more about how to use content, let's talk a little bit more about what exists content. What in your opinion, or what for entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and business owners, what is the content that they're producing?
Yeah, so as far as content goes, you're going to have a couple different categories. You're going to have your main content, and then you're going to have repurposed content. So really our goal is to have fantastic, amazing, rich main content. So this is blogs, podcasts, you speaking on stages, things like that, that are long form content. And then the short form content should be being taken from the long form content. So instead of creating all of these Instagram mini blogs that have nothing to do with anything else that you've ever posted before, we're going to say, hey, we have this one topic, and then we're going to create Instagram Reels and Club Talk and all of these things out of that big of content. One, because there's no way to give a ton of content and good solid content in a 15-second reel or a 15-second story, for example. But then you can point people back to that bigger piece of content and they can be like, oh, that's how you do X, Y, and Z, or this is why this is important to implement into my business, or this is why I should buy this product. Because people don't want just a glimpse of it. You don't want to just be a billboard that you're speeding down the highway on. You want to be one where they're stuck in traffic and they have to actually watch the whole entire thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love that. I think it's so important for entrepreneurs and business owners and just everybody to remember that, you know, no one is following you so closely. So it's okay to be kind of repeating yourself a little bit. So that's why repurposing is so powerful. We talked about what are the three aspects of great content. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about those three aspects?
Yeah, so it's the 3 C's. It's certainty, clarity, and confidence. And under certainty, we want to make sure that we have aligned content that's useful and unique. The reason for that is because you could have aligned content that's useful, but if it's not unique to you or how you're saying this message, nobody's going to care about it. For clarity, we want to be able to tell a story, be engaging, and one thing that most people forget is actually be findable, which means focusing on our SEO, talking about the same things over and over again, making sure that our branding is on point so that when people look up whatever topic you're talking about in your business, you're the person that comes up as the expert. And then for confidence, it's actionable, consistent, and then the strategy. Because if you're one of those people that's like, I'm going to try a webinar, I'm going to try a challenge, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, people are going to see that and see that as not being confident in what you're doing. So keep doing the same thing over and over again and perfecting it until you either decide, one, that it's definitely not working and you've tried every avenue, or you start tweaking those little analytics that we forget about because we tend to think that they're boring because we're all creatives. We want to create things. So, but really focusing on those analytics and saying, why didn't this email get open? Why didn't people like this particular caption on an Instagram story? And reusing things over and over again for like your launches, for example. So you're not recreating the wheel every single time.
I think you dropped so many bombs right there, and we need to dissect them a little bit. I love the 3 C's. So certainty is the first one. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about how to make sure that our content is actually aligned with, you know, our business goals and what we're trying to achieve? Because I know that is hard, because a lot of the time we hear all the marketing gurus, they say, yeah, create this viral reel, or create, like you said, like have this GIF and make sure that it's funny and get people noticing you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it moves your business forward, right? So how do we make sure that, you know, the content that we're putting out there is really aligned with what we're doing for our businesses?
Yeah, so aligned content is going to come from your branding. So instead of thinking about marketing as this one piece of the puzzle, you need to think about marketing as the umbrella, and branding lives under that, and your content lives under that. And the reason that you want to do that is because you can't market something well without having a good brand. So making sure it's useful is probably the easiest thing. You can look at your funny GIF, you can look at this funny video you've made, and is it useful? You can still be hilarious and give us great content. Give us something that's, you know, in the market that maybe is something that you disagree with. Like for us, we say, screw the funnel, start the journey. So that's our big tagline that we talk to about with people. And we jokingly say that funnels are the B-rated version of marketing, and it's the 80s version of marketing. So we're pulling in cultural things that people can relate to, but we're also giving useful content around, well, what do you do now? How do you have A+ marketing? How do you do all of these things? And which also makes you unique because you're looking at it from a different perspective. You're being able to say, hey, this isn't working for everybody. If everybody was only one funnel away, everybody would be a millionaire because they would have already created this funnel that got them to where they needed to go. There is no secret sauce that you're missing. It's all there. You just need to figure out how to then align it all together of, here's my products and services. Here is who I am as a person and as a business and my values and vision. And then this is how I'm helping you, so you can really get it out there into the world, but then repeat over and over again. And you're going to start getting bored. It's just part of owning a business, because not everybody's going to see your stuff every single time. The algorithm is not going to be there. They're going to be in a life crisis. A pandemic might happen. There's so many things that could keep them from seeing your marketing that you're going to have to tell them over and over again. Like, think about, like, I jokingly say it's like my husband. He always has to hear something from somebody else before he takes it in. So how many times are they seeing you say the same thing over and over and over again? Because statistically, we need to see something 7 times before we're like, oh, I do need to buy that pair of sunglasses. Oh yeah, it would be great to put this system into my business. So if we're not giving them the opportunity to really think about it and get it into their brain, it's not going to ever happen.
I love that you brought that up, because it is so important to keep showing up over and over again, because nowadays there's so much information out there, so much content out there. It's hard to, like, just see something once and say, oh yeah, I need that. I'm just going to go. You can't go from 0 to 100. You have to really take each step and bring the customer with you on that journey, right? To make them feel like they can trust you and know you. And that's what you do with content. You have to get them to trust you and give information and, like, bring you down the so-called funnel.
Yeah, well, and you're not a commodity. You don't want to be a commodity, because then you have to lower your prices, which means that you're going to have to try even harder, because you're not a candy bar in the grocery store aisle that people are just impulse buying. You're something that people have to actually go with the whole story. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is that Disney didn't create a business that lasted through all kinds of different things with a funnel. They created it by keeping people in the story. What story is it that they were telling that brought people along that whole entire way, even when things were falling apart?
I love that. So it's not so much about the funnel, but bring them with you, to your journey and your story, getting them to know your story and know and get to like your company, like your business, right? So it's about that entire going from point number A to point number B, the entire journey that you bring them along, right?
Yeah, well, and most people are not going to buy at that very beginning. People will stay on your list for about 1.5 years before they actually buy from your email list. So people that are like, well, I put out this freebie and nobody's bought anything. It's because you're trying to say, here's this free thing. Let's just get you down here. And it's not like putting rice in a bottle. There's rice falling out everywhere, and you have to figure out why it's falling out. But it also comes down to, we're trying to market to the beginning of that bell curve that we hear so much about. And these are the people that are going to stand in line for 7 hours to get an iPhone, when most of the population lives here. So we have to think about, like, what's that gap between these early movers and the rest of the population, and how are we nurturing them to trust us enough to say, hey, yeah, whether your product is $5 or $15,000, how am I going to trust you in order to actually give you that money that I've worked so hard for?
Oh, that's incredible. I love that. And the second aspect you talked about was clarity. And I guess clarity is also about branding, right? So we already touched on that a little bit.
Yes. So this is where you really get into telling your story. So this is not just like stories in general. This is really your story as a business. And what does that mean? So if you work specifically with moms because you are a mom, or you are working with these particular demographics, why did you choose that demographic? We want to hear the documentary pieces of behind the scenes, like all those things that we hear about for Instagram, for example. We want to see the behind the scenes. And this is where you can really focus on that in the clarity piece, because it's going to bring your customers clarity, but it's also going to bring you clarity on why are they attracted to you in the first place. Are they attracted to you because you get on Instagram at 6 a.m. and you're a little bit grungy, but you're real and they can relate to that? Or do they relate to you because they love the way that you dress your little kids and the styles that you bring to them? The other piece was being engaging. So that ties into your story. How are you engaging with these people? Are you giving them calls to action? Are they relating to you? Are you just putting out content, people are following you and you never hear from them? Then that's a big indicator for us in the marketing department to say, hey, why are they not interacting with us? but then with hashtags, SEO, making sure that you're putting yourself in the right demographic and not talking to the wrong audience. Because if you're talking to the wrong people and they're following you, that's fantastic, but they're never going to buy from you.
I love that. Yeah. I think that also ties in really well with the confidence piece, because you talked about, right, earlier on. And I think that's, like you said, it's not the sexy part of the business. It's most people are like, I don't want to do that. Like, that's just annoying. It's just numbers. But it's so important because you could be doing all the wrong things unless you use analytics and understand what is happening in the background and what's happening with the content that you're putting out there. So any other tips you have regarding analytics and how to kind of dissect your content a little bit more?
Yeah, especially if you're a one-man show right now, really making sure that once a month you are looking at your analytics, seeing exactly where they are. I'm a spreadsheet junkie. So I really enjoy putting certain things together and making sure that, if I'm tracking how many people are following me on Instagram, I'm going to track that every single month so I can say, hey, in December we had a huge drop off. Why did that happen? Did something change? Making sure that you're just really keeping a thumb on that. But then also, like on the email side, saying, hey, we got a 20% open rate on this email. How can we change this title just a little bit to see if maybe we can get a 30%. And then you just tweak things a little bit at a time. It doesn't have to be overwhelming because we only want to tweak one thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I'm like, yes, my will is a conversation. Content is great, but you have to make sure to be talking to the right people, making sure you're doing the right things, making sure you're analyzing. So love that. Okay, so let's note this is a topic that I am super excited for. Before we jump into how to do your repurposing, let's talk about what exactly is repurposing.
Yeah, so the idea of repurposing is creating something bigger and then making it smaller as you go along. So a lot of people will take a piece of content and repurpose it once. Our goal is to take that Gary Vee idea and repurpose it as many times as physically possible. Obviously, if you are running this by yourself, you're not going to be able to create 90,000 pieces of content like somebody with a team can. But sitting back and saying, how many Instagram posts do I want to do per week? How many blogs do I want to do per month? And figuring out what works for you first, and then walking into repurposing, saying, okay, I'm only going to post 2 blogs a month because I can't write one per week, and that's totally fine. How am I going to have content coming out every week on all of these other platforms to push people back to those blog posts so they're getting as much exposure as physically possible?
And would you say that it's best for someone to have a system in place regarding repurposing?
It's great you can use a piece of paper, you can use the Trello board, you can use a Google Sheet, whatever you're the most comfortable with. I just would suggest having something where you can physically write it down or have it somewhere that's not in these systems, because there's no system that necessarily has blog posts and podcasts and Instagram and all of these things in one spot. And you're going to want to be able to look at it and say, hey, maybe this isn't working if I'm posting Instagram on Sunday versus Tuesday when my audience is already there.
Yes. Do you put you on the spot a little bit, but do you have an example that you can give us regarding, repurposing, for example, for your business or for your client's business?
Yeah. So one of the things that I suggest to all of our clients is with podcasting that they have their podcast, but then they also use it as a video. So then you technically have 2 long form pieces of content. Then you could transcribe it as a blog and have 3. So now we have 3 long form pieces of content we could push people to through Pinterest pins, Instagram posts, TikTok videos, Reels, all of these things that we're making into smaller content. But then we're saying, hey, this month we really want to focus on building our YouTube channel. So we're going to do all of our analytics to make sure we have the right keywords, that we're pushing those videos at the right times for when they're indexing videos so that we're getting out into the algorithm further. Then we're Also making sure that we're creating more Pinterest pins versus for the blog that we're not looking to grow this month.
Mm-hmm. And would you say that for Pinterest pins and all those different platforms, what do you have tool recommendations? For example, Canva, or is there any other tool that you would recommend for people to check out?
Yeah, so I love Canva because you can have, like for us, we have a Pinterest board where I'm like, okay, these are the Pinterest pins that I use over and over again. And you can test those as well of what style works the best. And then we do the same thing for Instagram. And it makes it really easy for myself or a VA as you start hiring people on to go in and be like, oh, let's just pop these pictures in, get them up, make sure the links are correct, and start pushing that content out. The other thing I would suggest highly is getting on ConvertKit, even if you're using their free plan, because you can create something that's like Linktree, but then also get their email address when they come to your Linktree. So you can say link in bio, they go to your link in your bio, and then they're seeing all of your blog posts that you have there, so they can go check those out. But then you're also giving them the opportunity to connect with you further if they're liking your content.
Oh, I didn't know that. Is that a new feature that ConvertKit has?
Yes, it's been out for probably 6 or 7 months, and it's fantastic because you can have your feed down at the bottom too. So if people want to click back to Instagram to a particular, infographic that you have, for example, or a podcast you were on, they can go ahead and click that as well and then see what you had to say there.
Mm-hmm. That's super cool. I had no idea, so thank you for sharing that. I love that you talked about outsourcing a little bit, like hire a VA or team and doing the repurposing, like them. Do you have any tips for us how to hand off the repurposing part and like letting your virtual assistant or like a freelancer or someone that's new to your team, how do you pass the way that you repurpose to these people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's why transcribing things like videos and podcasts are going to be in your best benefit, because you can go ahead and do your content find and then go ahead and go find different words that you say a lot, and your VA can easily go and do that. So for example, you could use something like Get Guru, which is basically a training system where you say, here's step by step what you do. And you can give them each step that you normally would go through. And you want to make it as simple as possible. Think about it like if you're a baker and you're creating a cake, you want people to take each step at the same time. And you can absolutely do this with content creation. So the idea is to take them through that process, say, here's how I do it, and then let them go and do it. Actually delegate it to them, so that they're not coming back and asking questions, because then you're ruining the idea of you getting the time back that you're hiring this person for, because you'll be answering questions constantly. And this is scary as an entrepreneur because we don't like it when people make mistakes, especially with our brand. But letting them make mistakes and then being able to say, hey, this image was fantastic, but this caption is not exactly what I would say. And even my VA now, I have to go in and say, hey, I love that you're connecting with people on Instagram, for example, and I wouldn't necessarily say that I love this and love that all of the time. Like, let's get a little bit meatier. And that's just coming with confidence of them learning your voice and who you are. So the more content you can have them read through or listen to some of your podcasts so they can really get your voice down, that's going to be invaluable to you as an entrepreneur, but then also valuable to them because eventually you can train them to start writing your copy for you.
Mm-hmm. This is so powerful. I think we should be a bit more forgiving, because I know that, our business, it's our baby. It's something that we want to protect. We're like, no. Like, it's mine. You shouldn't touch it. I'll tell you to maybe feed a little bit of a snack to my baby, but you cannot, go and feed them and do all the different things. But the thing is, if we don't let go a little bit, we can't grow our businesses, right? Like, we have to be able to hand off to someone else to let them have the chance to help you grow your business.
Mhm.
I love that. What's the name of the system again? Get Guru, you said?
Yes, so it's Get Guru, and I think it's .io. And
Mm-hmm.
the great thing about it is it's basically like the idea of having cards, but then people can go in search of, how do I log into their Facebook account? How do I create an Instagram post? How do I post to the blog? And then you have exactly how you would do it. So then there's no room for those little errors that we freak out about of, oh my gosh, there was this wrong hashtag. And you can have
Mm-hmm.
pieces in place where, you can check things off. These are just creating systems. So instead of, like you said, thinking about our business like our baby, we want to think about it like a machine. And how are we
Mm-hmm.
making this machine better? By adding another person to help us. It's like if Henry Ford had decided that he was going to build cars forever by himself and never create his assembly line. We need to think of, how are we creating this assembly line so that you can go on vacation, you can go on maternity leave, you can do all these things that you could technically do if you had your normal 9 to 5. Like, what benefits do you want out of your business? And then work backwards. Like, if you want to be
Mm-hmm.
able to take a month vacation, how are you working backwards in order to have the people in place and to do that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That is so incredible. Thank you for sharing all those tips. I feel like I can talk to you so about repurposing and about content for so much longer, but we do have to stop wrapping up. I know that you have a special gift for us. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I actually created a repurposing Trello board for our clients because they were like, I have this big piece of content, but I'm not exactly sure how to repurpose it, or they'd only repurpose it 1 or 2 places. And it got a little bit confusing. So what I did is I created a video and a Trello board where you can actually say, here's one piece of content. How am I going to go and create at least 15 different places for this to go over the next month? Because just because you write a blog post today and put an Instagram post about it out, doesn't mean you can't in 2 weeks add another Instagram post that points back to that, and let's say a Twitter post. So there's lots of different options for you. My one suggestion would be, go look at your analytics. When are your people already on Instagram? When are they already on your blog? When are they already listening to your podcast? And post things then, so that you're surprising and delighting them of, oh my gosh, they knew I was already here looking for something. And here's this new thing I can listen to, or here's this new thing I can look at. Because then you're going to be seen a lot easier as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. I will make sure to leave it the link box for anyone that's interested in grabbing that. And I'm sure I'm going to myself. So definitely go check it out. And before I let you go, do you mind just sharing a little bit more about where we can find about you and connect with you online?
Yeah, of course. So you can find me over at KabrinaBudwel.com, and you can always connect with me personally. Shoot me a DM on Instagram at Email Marketing Guru, or also on LinkedIn where I hang out a lot.
Yay, incredible. Thank you so much for coming on your Entrepreneur Resources show. You gave so many strategies regarding content and repurposing, and I'm sure a lot of us have walked away with a lot of notes. For entrepreneur that's listening, in case you want to get a summary of the interview, make sure to check out our show notes, which I'll link in the description box. We have our live interview experts here twice a week, so make sure to stay tuned and join our community on Facebook. Again, you can find all the links in the description box. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I'll chat with you very soon, and have a great